Awesome. So I don't use any slides. I go right on through using LinkedIn. Talking about lead generation today. So there's many different ways, obviously, to use LinkedIn. Sales and marketing leads are my favorite way to use LinkedIn for obvious reasons, being that I have a business that I'm trying to grow. So this is what I have been using for over probably about a year and a half now for my own business. Prior to that, I used LinkedIn for job search and for helping other people recruit. There's so many different wonderful ways to use this tool, but let's dive into LinkedIn Sales Navigator. First, I want to show you kind of my profile real quick so you guys can kind of see what an optimized profile looks like, because everything that I'm about to talk about today really depends on having an optimized profile. So here are just some of the key things to look for in your profile. The first thing being your cover photo. It's really important that that be branded, whether that's your personal brand or your corporate brand, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, whether it's just selling yourself and your own freelance services, you want to have a personal brand. If you're selling on behalf of a greater company or bigger organization, whatever it is, you want to brand it based on your objectives within that company. So for me, I own Mouth Marketing. So my goal here is to brand according to my company brand. Sell more on LinkedIn. The next most important part of this is obviously your profile photo. So we see often people having, photos that may be a little bit grainy, very hard to kind of see who they are. We want a clear, professional photo here. So I highly recommend getting something branded. I'm wearing my black lips, so that's a big part of my company brand. But whatever it is, you want to be fun here. You don't have to be like stodgy and uptight about your profile photo on LinkedIn. You can have some fun. So this content that we're seeing right here, I call this above the fold. I think many people tuning in are probably in or around marketing in some way. So you probably have heard this before in terms of newspapers and in terms of websites. This is above the fold on LinkedIn. We want to make sure that the content that's above the fold is not only attention grabbing, but you want to be really clear because you have just a couple seconds to make an impression on somebody. So you want to make sure that they know exactly what it is that you are doing and what it is you're looking to achieve. So you have about 2 lines of your summary that are really important. A really important headline, this right here. You can change this. LinkedIn defaults that to being your job title. That's a big no-no. I think most of us probably have heard that by now. What I like to do is I like to structure this headline as a call to action. One thing that's really important to note about the call to action is to avoid using you, your, their. Don't use those. That's actually a big no-no. So just be really clear. Don't get overly salesy here, but just let people know very clearly what it is that you do and when to call you. So let's now get into Sales Navigator, which is the really exciting part. Sales Navigator is kind of its own separate platform in a lot of ways. It gives you deeper search options. You can really target more specifically your audience in Sales Navigator, which is really what makes it the most powerful tool, in my opinion. So let me start and kind of show you where we go. So if you noticed, I just went, and I'll do this really quick because I do it fast, and a lot of people miss this part. So you see, I clicked in here. I'm not clicking anything. I'm not typing anything, but I'm going to go ahead and click this search button to the right. So it brings me to an empty search page. This is where you can start to really refine and get at your target audience. So what I normally do is I just go all the way down here, view all filters, especially the first couple of times you're doing this. You want to see all of the options available to you. So let's target, we can target by industry, we can target by geography, zip code, relationship. Relationship, I always like to keep this at second degree connections. I would not stray from that. I would definitely leave it to, second degree connections. And the reason being is, second degree connections, you may have already met them in passing at a networking event. You are more likely to meet them organically anyways. So there's a few different reasons why this is important, but second degree connections is where you want to focus. School, this can be a really good one. Profile language, this is really cool. So I travel a lot internationally on business and obviously for fun. So what I like to do is I like to turn fun trips into work trips. So I might go to France, but I don't speak French. So I'm going to set the profile language to English. That way I can network with people that might speak English that are in France. So you can get really specific here too if you're traveling and trying to make more meetings across the world. This is a great way to do that. Function, this is probably my favorite. So I avoid searching by job title, and there's a few different reasons for that, but the most important being that a lot of companies nowadays don't use standard job titles. You have these tech companies that are, naming their CEO, chief laugh officer, and all sorts of crazy things. So what I recommend that you do is click seniority level, CXO, and then the function being whatever it is that you're trying to do. So for me, we'll do marketing. And I'm going to leave it at this for the purposes of these search results, but you can go ahead and you could filter by company, by years in the current position, years at current company, years of experience, all great ways that you can kind of narrow down these search filters. So let's go ahead and hit search right here. See, I'm getting a lot of results. I think it's at, like 43,000 results. Whoa, right? Now what? So here's what I like to do. And obviously you can narrow it down by geography. If you're not global, if you're not national, you can certainly target your area. My favorite thing to do is change jobs in the past 90 days. This is really important, especially if you're targeting executives. So executives are more likely to make a new vendor purchase within the first year of their employment in that job. So executives are trying to, they're trying to make a splash. They might be looking at alternative ways to do things in order to shake things up at the company. So this is your opportunity to kind of get in when they're probably already looking into some of these things. So what I recommend that you do is filter through based upon that. Look at the kind of low-hanging fruit here and make those connections. So what I like to do is I like to connect with up to 50 people a day in my target audience. So it's kind of a lot. It seems like a lot, but you have kind of a reason for connecting with them too. So for instance, I'll go in and I'll connect, and I'm not actually going to do this today because this isn't my true target audience, but I would go in and I would put my custom message in here, say, Dear Conrad, I saw that, you started this new position. That's really exciting. Congratulations. I look forward to following your professional advancements or whatever it is. A nice, thoughtful note that goes out to these people. So, you can leave the default message, but I don't recommend doing that. It just kind of depends on your audience and who you're targeting, but go ahead and make those connections. These people are probably already looking for vendors at any given point. Maybe not today, but maybe next year. They know other people that are in the industry that probably are looking for help. So I like to go in and build these relationships, but I don't go in. What you don't want to do is what you might see a lot on LinkedIn is people are going in and adding, and then spamming. We don't want to do that. So what we want to do is we actually want to build these relationships up. So yes, we're going to send an invitation, a thoughtful personal message. Then we're going to follow up with a thanks for connecting. Look forward to getting to know you and your business a little bit better. Free for coffee sometime. It's really simple, but just a simple message, getting to know somebody goes so much farther even than these kind of series of, here's my downloadable ebook, check it out. Like, just don't throw that stuff in their face. So it's really important that you think about the actual person behind what you're trying to get at before you try to go after the sale. So just keeping that in mind, those are really, really important social selling tips when it comes to this routine. So after you've made your 50 connections a day, you kind of think, now what, right? Whether they accept or whether they don't accept your invitation, what do I do once they're connected with me? How do I engage them? So I recommend, let's go back over to LinkedIn, regular LinkedIn, is we go in and we write articles and content. So I'll show you some of the things that we've been doing for just myself. is, let's see, all activity. So I'm posting right now for ourselves and for our clients. We try to post at minimum 1 time per day. So you see I had something go out 2 hours ago. I shared an article earlier. There's just a lot of content that is kind of going out and being engaged with. So it's really important that the more content that you push out, the more industry relevant content, that's really, really key. And that's for a variety of reasons, but industry related news, I think it was LinkedIn that shared this statistic. It was like 89% of LinkedIn users prefer to get industry related news from LinkedIn. So that's the content that people want to see. And it's totally true. You can talk about all the tricks that you can do all day long, but that's really not exciting for the person reading that content. I mean, if it's really exciting news, of course it is, but you really want to share content that's going to be useful to them, and third party is actually kind of the way to go to make yourself more credible. So I like to do about 50% original content, which is content that we create that's helpful, maybe tips. That might be an exciting client win, but then we do another 50% of that content is industry related news that we are kind of scanning the RSS feeds for. We want to see, helpful tips, social media news. I mean, things are constantly changing in our industry. It's pretty easy for me to find content to share, but that isn't necessarily as easy for some of our clients. So we have clients that are in commercial pest control. So obviously they're not going to have like a ton of trade news that's really exciting to want to read. So instead, what we focus on is more like hospitality or things that their target audience is already interested in, maybe not related directly to pest control, but their target audience is in hospitality. They're following this news. So you are being the resource. They're going to you for this news. That's a win. That's a total win. So just those two components together. So you want the consistent content and you want to be targeting the ideal client on LinkedIn. So up to 50 a day. What you don't want to do is send out, 1,000 invitations using some robot and then finding out that your profile was shut down. That's a big, big no-no. So if you're using automation tools, I get asked this a lot. If you're using automation tools, you have to use them very wisely because LinkedIn is very smart and they will catch on to you using these robots. So you have to be very, very careful in monitoring that process. So if you're using something like Duck Soup or one of the many others out there, that's what you want to be kind of conscientious of, is just making sure that you're not, blasting the internet with a bunch of, invitations and collecting that data. That is a big no-no. So this process is about building those relationships and solidifying that relationship online. So that way, when the client comes in or when you come in, you're ready to kind of take that relationship to that next step. It's like dating. So we're kind of flirting for you. And then when you are ready to actually, make the move, it's already good. You're golden. So it's kind of a 2-part process. We spend about 15 to 20 minutes every day just kind of doing the connections, and then probably another 10 to 15 minutes a day actually kind of engaging with our audience on LinkedIn. So at minimum, you want to spend about 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn. So that's at least what I recommend in order to organically grow your B2B business. Of course, there's consumer options out there, but there's the B2B side. It's a slam dunk. If you're not doing it, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. So let's go back really quick to my profile because there's a couple more things since I think we got through some of the Sales Navigator stuff. If you guys have questions, I think you guys can chat. I'm not sure if we're getting any chats right now, but type them in there, and then that way when we're done, I can make sure to get to those questions. So down in your experience section, it's really important that not only do you have a clear description of what you're doing, but it's about your story. So yes, some people use this as their resume, and I get that it can be your resume, I suppose, but when you're looking at this profile from a marketing and sales perspective, you want the summary to be engaging and talking about your story and how you've impacted the company, whether you're just whether you're, you know, the janitor or the CEO, I don't care. It should be about your story and your experience. So, you know, I obviously talk about how I founded Mouth Marketing, but that doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, your story. Just bring it all. You want a comprehensive picture of who you are as a person. So I also like to add media in here. This adds a ton of credibility, and people are usually reading this media. I get a lot of messages. Oh, I read your interview in Voyage magazine. Congratulations, whatever it is. But I'm getting that engagement from my target audience. So it's not just, you know, friends that are saying congratulations. These are my target audience that are reaching out to me and said, oh, I read that article. Great job. Whatever it is. So making sure that you have those media components in there, if you have any, so huge, so huge. So it's one way to kind of boost up your credibility. Obviously, your education, I like to add media in there as well. Volunteer experience, that's really important. And then these featured skills and endorsements. So I wanted to come back down to this because we've got a lot of questions around the importance of skills and endorsements. And I have noticed, especially in the past probably few weeks, LinkedIn has been changing the way this section looks and how it behaves. So today, when you go to endorse somebody for, say somebody wanted to endorse me for advertising, which, you know, please connect with me and endorse me for advertising because I'm just kidding. But seriously, you want to get at least 99. So getting that 99 endorsement was kind of that threshold before, right? Well, today we're actually seeing sometimes on the app, not all the time, but sometimes you will see the total count of skills that you've been endorsed for. So the reason this is so huge is because, as you see currently on my profile, marketing and social media is at 99 plus, which looks pretty cool. Advertising is only at 90 though. So, you know, that's kind of that tipping point. Whereas now what you might see is, I think marketing is like 140 something and social media is 120 something. You might see this sometimes online and on the app. I think they're doing some A/B testing. Now, when you go to endorse somebody today too, it's a little bit different. So if you haven't endorsed anybody in a while, the endorsements work a little bit like this. You go in and you, let's just do one really quickly. Let's go in and endorse Dylan. Let's see if I haven't already endorsed him for something. So let's endorse Dylan for PowerPoint. I hope it didn't do it today. So if you go on, and it's probably because I've already endorsed him for things, but if you go on and endorse somebody, especially from your phone, the app is a little bit different. Like I said, it behaves a little bit differently. So I would show you on the app, but I can't for my computer. If you go on the app, it will ask you, how do you know this person has this skill? And it'll ask you, did you work with them? You know, what was the situation? I think Dylan's probably isn't working because I've already endorsed him for several things. But if you go and endorse somebody new, it's going to ask you, you know, how did you know that? Which is a big change. Before, you could just kind of blanket endorse anybody. And that's, you know, it was good and bad. It was good because it made it easy, but it was bad because a lot of people were endorsing people they didn't actually knew possessed those skills. So you're getting more real skills endorsements today than you were before, which is actually a really good thing. So I think we'll start to see that section become more powerful in the coming probably year or so. Recommendations, it's really good to have a few recommendations on your profile, just giving people, again, that added layer of credibility. Oh, they are a real person and people are willing to recommend them on LinkedIn. That's huge. It's like a testimonial for you as the person. So I highly recommend reaching out to your network, maybe clients or colleagues, and just asking for a recommendation. You know, that you probably, some people have to admire your work somewhere along the way. So reach out to those fans that you have and say, hey, would you mind sending me a recommendation on LinkedIn? So it's the worst they're going to tell you is no. And I know no can be hard to get over sometimes, but you've got to do it. When it comes to lead generation and sales, you're going to be told a lot. You're going to hear no a lot anyways. So might as well get used to it. So adding that layer of credibility, huge, huge, huge. Obviously, the more complete your profile is, the more credible you look as a character. So just making sure you're filling out all of this. So interest, Digital Olympus. Follow the page. All right. So profile, let's see if I have any, I guess I can see if there's a way to see the chat over here. Okay, we're still good. So if anybody has any questions, I think we're probably good on time, and I'm open to questions. I know I went through some of this stuff really fast.